Dear Dharma friends and practitioners, today is the 24th of July, the, the, the 4th of July 2026. We came back to the weekend with the topic um, practice seriously. So, for a normal person, when you serious in anything, everything that you do will be serious. When we serious in the right Dharma, we will have a goal of the liberation, and the serious in life will lead us to the serious in the living. So in our practice, a serious in a practice, we always practice correctly and we follow the rule, the monastic rule. As a student, we always follow the schedule and always do our job continuously and clearly. We don't play or force ourselves to do anything, but we do everything seriously and automatically. Just like a student, when he's serious in his study, he always focus on his weakness and he practice directly on that weakness and improve himself from there. So as new practitioners, Patriot Zen practitioner, in order to practice seriously, we've always focused on the belief in our Buddha nature and practice continuously in college and diligently. We don't just force ourselves to do the practice, but we do the practice regularly. We realize where our weakness, our mistake, and we come back to fix that by doing the practice seriously and continuously. We follow the schedule in the monastery, even when we receive any respect from everybody, we also take it seriously to use that as the motivations to go back to the practice and progress in our practice. If we don't know the practice, the direction of practice, the proper direction of practice, then we won't be able to walk on the right path. So this is why we need the sessions of question and answer to help us, to remind us to go back to the practice and practice our methods correctly and seriously. So if you have any questions related to your practice, I want to share your own experience, go ahead and speak up. Phật tuệ, go ahead. When you talked about the mind, the serious mind in practicing or receiving the right Dharma, I look back to myself. I think I'm not really serious with this mind yet. I thought that I have avowed uh, incorrectly when I make a vow to become a nun and ask for the right Dharma. At first, I had a mind that because I'm outside, we are so busy. We always busy with our job, our life outside, and we always pay attention to the life having or not having, achieve or not achieve. As a female living in uh, the normal life outside, we need to face with all the activities from outside, all those um, job that we had and relationship, the parties, all these interfere with our practice. And when we thinking about the life from outside, we realize that um, um, many situations that we have to go through, and we cannot practice. So I thought that we need to be closer to you, our master, so we can make the practice and see our own mind. Even though when we leave outside, we practicing, we have everything, we still feel like it's not enough. In the life outside, we always have the thinking that we can go everywhere on tour and um, um, have to face with a lot of things. But when came back to the monastic life, I still need to go back to the practice. I feel like I still need something that I have to improve in my practice. I still not really serious in my practice. When I read the Lâm Tế teaching, most of the teaching for the disciples that he always reminded us, if you stopped your mind of wanting to be the Buddha, searching for something, your mind must listen to our sharings with all of your heart. And that time, your mind is the same as the mind of the Buddha. So I realized that I always have something to ask for, something that I want to achieve in my practice. And when my practice is not clear enough, I had all these thinking, it's not uh, uh, it's not very good thinking. It's just like a lazy thinking or a passive thinking in a mind. Just let it be. and we can go back to our practice. And when I had all the thinkings, I feel like I waste my time in practice. When I want to do something, I just go out and do all the activity, and I forget about the schedule of um, the practice in the monastery. I am doing all these, not following the schedule, and I feel ashamed of myself when I'm drinking tea or I saw any people that doing from outside that doing the practice seriously. And when I realized that, I start to go back and make a vow and practice, even though you always remind me to go back to the practice. However, I realized that I need to be really careful with this mind, because I'm living uh, under the control of this mind, and we not in control of this mind yet. That's why when we get out of the monastic practicing, and this mind can lure us away from the practice. I knew that we cannot oppose this mind. I cannot force this mind, um, but I still have some problem. That's why when I realized this, I know that we need to be really careful with this mind. We need to use all the times, all the all the time that we have in order to go back to the practice. If not, we will face with the circle of birth and death, and that will go back to the reincarnations, and we don't know our future. Uh, and who knows that we can find our right Dharma. And this is so lucky that I can find this Dharma, the right Dharma. Several years ago, I feel like I was suffering with all things going on in this life, but now I'm practicing. Could you give me some word of encouragement on this? In fact, if you have the right mind in practice, the right vow in the practice, everything will be clear. We don't run under the situations or the daily living. If we run after these thinking in the mind, then everywhere, every situation, we will run after them. But if we have a goal in our liberations, then we focus on our practice and walk toward our goal. So in all situations, we will do the practice and always come back to the practice. And when we practice enough, we will realize the right directions in our practice. The note, nothing to ask for, nothing to achieve, nothing to fear of, or the practice without words, without explanations. And when we see that clearly, based on our practice, we will practice correctly. But if we still not seeing that clearly, then we still have the interference from those activities. Doesn't matter if you're living at home and practice, or you're living in the monastic life and practice. That mind of running after things, up after thinkings, can lure you away from your practice. It doesn't mean that you live in the life outside, then you have all the interference. But when you live in the monastic life, you don't have these interference. The life from inside and outside are the same. If we have the vow to practice toward the liberations, clearly everywhere, every times, every situations, you still practicing correctly. Even you live in a war, you live in a prostitute house, you live in a bar, everywhere that you facing, you still can go back to your practice. So when you clear with the right Dharma and come back to the practice, then everywhere, every situation, you still can go back to the practice. If you don't have that mind, then even you living in a rich life with a life with gold, you still unhappy with your life. But if you really believe in the practice, the liberations, then you will go back to the practice easily. And those are just explanations. Those are just the words of explanations. As the third patriarch Tăng San told us that uh, belief in the Buddha nature has no dualism. And when you have no dualism, you believe in the Buddha nature. When we clear in our direction of practice and know our goal, our practice is always there, and our belief in the Buddha nature will help us to practice more. And when we practice more, we believe in our Buddha nature more. And these two go in simultaneously in our practice. We don't uh, go around just like a dog chasing her own tail, just because the ignorance, the habits that we had. That's why we need our teachings from the Buddha and the patriarchs and listen to them and get that as a reminder to go back to our practice. In the monastery life, we have friends, Dharma friends, our master always there to remind us to practice. The monastic rules will pull us back to our practice, and eventually one day we will see our own Buddha nature. If not, if we don't have these helping, sometimes we just run after ourselves, our ego, and we won't be able to practice correctly. Even the Sakyamuni Buddha is here, he cannot help us at all. That's why we need to follow the monastic life, the monastic rules, and follow the schedule in the monastic life. So our mind um, will always focus on the practice. When we reach the ultimate goal, the roots of all ignorance, the emptiness of the mind, and we can uh, realize our own Buddha natures eventually. Is that understandable? Yes. Thank you for your words. Kim In, go ahead. I have a Dharma friend who just practiced for a while, and he shared an experience that when we practicing, and we certainly uh, uh, ask a questions, why we asking these questions, what do we use it question for, why we keep asking the question every day, and which one will help us to improve in our practice. Is that from the questions? And could you please give him some words of encouragement? When we asking questions, that is the applications of the practice in our daily living. We use that to apply that in our living. We not using that to ask for anything or want to achieve anything. We don't run after the subjective or objective aspect of this life. When we still consider our practice is nonsense, or still have the discrimination in our practice, we don't when we don't achieve anything, we cannot follow what we ask for, we feel frustrated. When you still running after these bubbles of life, running after the thunder's lights and try to catch them, and when you cannot get anything, then you feel like your practice of patriot Zen is have nothing for us to follow, and it's a nonsense practice. This is the habit from several lives that we have. We believe in this thinking in the mind. Sometimes we thought our practice is right, and sometimes we thought our practice is nonsense. It's just because you still not believe in your own Buddha nature. When we practice, we don't run after all these thinking in the mind. We don't hide from our daily living, but we use our daily living, interact with them, and still go back to our practice. When we focus on the pre-thinking aspects of the mind, we always detach ourselves from those objective thinking in the mind, and we don't attach ourselves to them by going back to the practice, asking questions and raising doubt. When we reach the pre-thinking aspect of the mind, we will detach ourselves from everything automatically. If we still have the intention that we want to detach ourselves to something, then we still have that attachment to good or bad, correct or incorrect in this practice. When we asking the question and raising doubt, we realize that we cannot take or put down anything because the doubt is there to sweep up all the things for us automatically. We use the nonsense questions in order to create the doubt. At first, it feels like a nonsense practicing. We have no taste at all in our practice. If we believe and continue to practice, eventually we will have a taste in our practice. It's just like with K Zen Master explained that we're using the soldiers and enemies, soldiers, to siege the general headquarters. So when we do in our practice, we don't attach ourselves either to the correct or incorrect, having sense or nonsense. Just go back to the asking questions and raising doubt. That doubt will lead us to the pre-thinking aspect of mind eventually. It's just like the example from with Kaizen Master using the enemy soldiers to um, catch the general, enemy general. So no matter what situation that you're in, whatever that situation that you're facing, you still go back to the practice, asking questions and raising doubt. All those activities going on in our life, nothing but a dream. You live in a turbulent life, but your life is still your mind is still not changing. You're living in the turmoil life. Your practice is still there, and your mind still not changing at all. In all situations, we always come back to our practice. As the new practitioners, we relied on the master, our Dharma friends, to remind us to practice. Don't let your habit or your ignorance to lure you away from the practice. The chance that you have, the good chance that we have to see the right Dharma in this life. We're not showing up our practice, but we do our practice seriously, continuously. There's nothing for us to hold on to. nothing for us to ask for, nothing for us to achieve when we doing our practice. And when we go into this state of practice, then we can go back to our pre-thinking aspect of mind. All the questions in that booklet, all the koans that we heard about had only one purpose: to help us to get a doubt and go back to the pre-thinking aspect of mind. And when we reach that root of all ignorance, all those sadness, happiness, or right or wrong will be collectively gathered in just one thought of the mind. And that one thought of the mind will lead us to that root of all ignorance. And this is also the explanations of using one thought of ignorance to go back to the roots of all ignorance. When we do in our practice, we don't attach ourselves to anything going on in this mind. And when we can detach ourselves from everything like that, we can reach the pre-thinking aspect of mind. And when we can reach the pre-thinking aspect of mind, we have a chance to realize our own Buddha nature or get enlightenment. Don't be mistaken that you need to attach yourself to these questions or this doubt. Just ask the questions, and when you have the doubt will automatically sweep up all these thinkings in the mind for us, even the thinking about the doubt or about the practice. When we still have the discriminations, that's still the thinking in the mind. When we thought that we reach the pre-thinking aspect of mind where nothing is there, or we reach the mind that everything that's going back to that root, we still having the thinking in the mind. Just go back to asking questions and raising doubts. We focus on asking questions and raising doubts. Doesn't matter what's going on in our mind, we still go back to asking questions and raising doubt. And that is the right way of practice. And when we believe in our own Buddha nature fully, then we can practice diligently, seriously, and continuously. Is that understandable? Yes, thank you for your words. Could you please remind me using the questions, but don't attach ourselves to the questions? Could you please explain about this? Our wise men always remind us to focus on the pre-thinking aspect of mind, not the questions. A lot of new practitioners, they have this mistake. They thought that the questions is what we need to focus on. That's why they just chanting the questions, and they thought that um, they use the practice correctly. They always use their assumptive mind to think that they are practiced correctly. When we still thinking that we're doing the right practice, that is still the thinking in the mind. When we think that we doing the wrong practice, that's still the thinking in the mind. Our wise men always remind us that either you see that you practice correctly or incorrectly, you still go back to asking question and raising doubt. As our master Zilak, he always told us that we am using the words from the Buddha and the Patriarch to remind everybody to practice. It's not for us to attach to, but to believe more in our Buddha nature and go back to the practice. If you get enlightenment before me, I will be your students and learn from you. And when you practice and detach yourself from all of those that you ask for, what you achieve, then you go on the right path. In our practice of Patriot Zen, we don't use a assumptive mind. Our master also reminds us that don't use your assumptive mind. The mind of asking for something, want to achieve something, or afraid of something. And this is the mind that can interfere with our practice. So when we enter the practice, the stream of practice, we don't pay attention to anything going on in the mind, even that we got what we asked for, we got what we achieve what we asked for. Our mind will be completely swept up the doubt, the mind of asking for something, the mind that want to achieve something, the mind that afraid of something will be swept up completely, automatically by the doubt. Just ask the questions and raising doubt. When you get familiar with your practice, you will realize that our life, when we hungry, we eat. When we thirsty, we drink. And that is as simple as the practice that we had. And when we listen to the Dharma talk, listen to our Dharma friends' sharings, we realize our own practice mistake and we can go back to our practice. Is that understandable? Yes. Thank you for your words.